Welcome back to Theology Thursday. Good to be with you guys again. Thanks for joining me. Some of you may be thinking, wait a minute, today's not Thursday, it's Friday. And you would be correct, because this subject that we're talking about today, Holy Week, took me a little bit longer to research than I was expecting. And also it's Good Friday today, so I figured let's release a video on Good Friday in honor of Good Friday. So hope you guys are enjoying the springtime and the flowers and the sun and all that good stuff. But first, before we get into talking about Holy Week, I wanted to show you guys a resource that you can get on your phone device for free. So come down here with me. This is a podcast called Exploring My Strange Bible. It's by a guy named Tim Mackey. He's one of the guys that started the Bible Project. And this is like a collection of his sermons and teachings over the last 10 or so years, where he just talks about different books of the Bible, different concepts found in the Bible, and how the Bible relates to science, how the Bible was created, who wrote the Bible, what does the Bible mean. It's a lot about the Bible. And so I don't know if you guys do this already, but like while you're working or driving or cleaning or doing whatever you do, it's good to pop some earbuds in and get your learn on while you're doing something else. A little bit of double dipping. So that's what I do while I'm rocking in the bus. I try to learn as much as I can while I'm using my hands. So that's the resource for the week. Hope you guys will actually listen to it. It's great. But today we're talking about Holy Week. And so let's put 5 minutes on the clock, because it's Friday, 5 minutes, and let's do a minute per day. No, there's 7 days in a week. We'll still do 5 minutes. Holy Week, I want to talk, let's go. So start the timer right now. I want to talk about Holy Week because I never really knew anything about Holy Week. Holy Week is between Palm Sunday and Resurrection Sunday, and all the events that transpired. I kind of only saw it as Palm Sunday and Resurrection Sunday, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that takes place in between that week. And also I wanted you and me and all of us to understand that this is like a historical week, like with actual dates and times and things that happened. And for me, it helped to bring to life the story of Jesus and his crucifixion, give me a little bit more context for what was going on. So we're just going to work our way through the week and rock and roll. My timer's already started. We got to get cooking. So the first day of the week is Sunday, and everybody knows, a lot of people know Palm Sunday. Your kids get branches in Sunday school and then they whack you with them. Palm Sunday is when Jesus enters into Jerusalem, and this was prophesied in Zechariah 9:9. It says, rejoice, and basically like your king is here. He's here and he's riding on a donkey, which is a little weird, but like Messiah is here. And so the people of Israel, the Jewish people, were waiting for a Messiah who would come and liberate them from captivity. Because all the way back when Assyria and Babylon took over Israel and Judah, they've been in captivity for hundreds and hundreds of years. And the prophet said, don't worry, you're not going to be in captivity forever. There will be a Messiah who will come and set you free from captivity. And it'll be like the Davidic time, like when David was king. And so they were like freaking out, like, yeah, it's Jesus. Jesus is the guy. He's going to set us free. And so they throw their palms on the ground and welcome him into the city. Jesus is popular. People love him. And the religious leaders do not love him. So this is where the conflict begins to arise. And we see right at the end in Mark, it says that Jesus goes into the temple, looks around, but it's late, so he goes home. And so that sets us up for Monday. Monday is actually a pretty famous day too. Monday is when Jesus comes in and he cleanses the temple. He flips the tables and he says, what the heck is going on here? You guys have turned my Father's house, in that's supposed to be a house of prayer, into a den of robbers. You're thieving. And so what they were doing is they were taking people's sacrifices that they had come for the Passover meal, and they were saying, oh, those aren't clean. Your lambs are dirty. You can buy one of our lambs for 10 times the price. And then what they would do is they would take the dirty lambs, re-tag them as clean lambs, and then sell them for an upscale price. So the religious leaders in the temple were preventing people from worshiping God. And the temple was a place where they were supposed to be able to experience God's presence, and instead they were doing the opposite. And so Jesus, he curses a fig tree, which is weird, and then he goes and cleanses the temple But the fig tree is symbolic of what he's doing in the temple. He's saying, you're not bearing fruit, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, bringing people into God's presence, and so you are cursed because of it. And so this escalates the temperature, right? Like if you're a religious leader and Jesus just takes away like a major way that you're making money, the people are stoked, right? Because they're getting their lambs at regular price now. So this takes us to Tuesday. Tuesday is a day filled with debate. There's lots of pages in your Bible filled with Tuesday. Jesus talks about divorce. This is where the famous talk about like, hey, what should we do with our taxes, right? And then Jesus says, whose face is on your coin? And he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, but give to God what is God's. And what is God's? Everything is God's. But what is Caesar? Give to Caesar his coin. And so what the religious leaders were trying to do was to trap Jesus because he was super popular. So they're like, man, if we can make him look stupid, then we can kill him and the people won't mind that much. But Jesus is smarter than them. And so they can't trap Jesus. And so they just get more and more frustrated. And so that's Tuesday. Jesus is just teaching. And again, he's come to die. And so he's basically ensuring that these religious folks will kill him. And then we have Wednesday. So this is kind of like a calmer day for Jesus, less teaching. He's having a meal with Simon the leper, and the Sanhedrin's off making a plan for how to kill Jesus. But Jesus is having a meal, and then some lady comes and breaks her perfume on him and washes his feet with her hair. And what Jesus says is that you've anointed me for my burial. And everyone's like, oh, okay, that's weird. And what she had done is like she broke her thing of perfume, which is what she was supposed to say for her wedding night. It was like a dowry, I think, or some sort of really expensive, like $40,000 worth of perfume. And she broke it and basically said like, all of who I am is yours, Jesus. I love you. And I worship you. My whole life is yours. I have no backup plan. You're all I got. And so what Jesus says is like, everywhere where the gospel is preached, this woman will be a testimony. And so we still talk about her today. And so what Jesus said came true. And so that's Wednesday. Jesus was prepared for burial. And then we get to Thursday. And Thursday, you guys may know the picture of the Lord's Supper where they're all sitting at a table, which actually isn't accurate because they weren't all white people and they weren't sitting at a table. What they did for the Passover is that they sat on, like they laid on their sides, because the Passover meal, which it was to remember the Exodus from Egypt, right? Because they were enslaved to Pharaoh, and then God sets them free, and they bake unleavened bread because they don't have time to let it leaven, because they go in the middle of the night in a big hurry, and so they don't have tables, right? If you're celebrating the Passover, you're like running through the desert away from Pharaoh. You're not going to set up and have a table. So to remember the Passover, they would lay on their sides and they would eat a meal. And so Thursday, Jesus actually has the Passover a day before he's supposed to, because he's going to be busy on Friday actually being the lamb who is slain for the sins of the world. But what Jesus does is he takes the traditional bread and the wine that is used for Passover to remember the Exodus event, and he reinterprets, gives new meaning to the bread and the wine. So the bread, he says, is my body and it's given for you, and the wine is his blood, which is poured out in a new covenant. And so that's Thursday, and then Jesus goes and he prays in the Garden of Gethsemane, and his disciples fall asleep. Judas comes and betrays him with a kiss, right? And then they do like this nighttime Sanhedrin council meeting where they decide to kill Jesus. And then that rolls us into Friday, where the Sanhedrin meets again in the morning and they confirm, yes, we're going to kill Jesus, because they weren't technically allowed to have their midnight meeting. And so they have a early morning meeting where they officially say we need to kill Jesus because he blasphemed, he called himself God. And so that was what they decided to kill Jesus for. And then he goes to trial with Pontius Pilate, and there's kind of like a back and forth where he goes to Herod for a minute and then back to Pilate, and they're like, I don't think this guy's guilty. You really want to kill him? And so then the Romans say that he is guilty and that he is sentenced to death. And the Jewish people had to have the Romans do it because they weren't allowed to do capital punishment on their own. And so then Jesus is beaten and mocked. They put a robe on him, a crown of thorns, symbolizing that Jesus called himself a king, and this was Jesus being enthroned to his glory despite the shame that they were bringing upon him. And it's this weird paradox of how like the most shameful, detestable, wicked, evil thing in the world could be used for so much good and glory and salvation for the world. And so Jesus is hung on the cross at 9 a.m. and then at 3 p.m. he breathes his last. And in between those 6 hours, we have the last 7 sayings of Jesus. It is finished is the last one. Jesus has accomplished salvation. And then he's taken down. He's put in a tomb for a guy's tomb. I can't remember his name right now. But then Saturday, what happens Saturday? It's kind of like a quiet day. The Sanhedrin and some of the religious leaders are like, hey, we should go put a guard at the door just to make sure no funny business happens. So that's one thing they do on Saturday. And then there's some talk in the scriptures about Jesus descending into hell, or like going down into the earth and preaching to the captives and then like leading some away. And so there's a lot of controversy about what Jesus is doing on Saturday. Like, is he going to hell? Is he in paradise? Because he says, today I'll be with you in paradise. And what I think, here's my quick explanation. We could do a whole thing on this, but I think Jesus goes to where dead people are, because there's not really a hell or a heaven yet. There's like a holding temporary place. And so I think he goes to the temporary place, like Abraham's bosom is what it's called. And he takes the believers who had faith in him, he takes them out and proclaims that he has finished what is finished. And to everyone who didn't believe in God, who didn't put their faith in him, he leaves down there and he says, like, I accomplished this, but you didn't believe in me. And so then he takes them to present heaven, is what some people call it. I don't know if that's what happens. It's not super clear in scripture. I'll put some links below to all these scriptures so you can read them on your own. But then that takes us to Sunday, and it says early Sunday morning, some ladies went to go bring stuff to Jesus, to like put flowers on his grave or something like that, and he wasn't there. So sometime early in the morning, Jesus rose from the dead, and that's what we celebrate on Easter, is that Jesus is not dead, Jesus is alive. And so I hope that kind of helped you with a rundown of the week. It was pretty fast. If you have more questions, pop a question below. Thanks for watching, guys, and that's all. I'll see you guys out there. Bye.